Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last day of the Learning Redefined conference hosted by Showbie. Today is our Nordics day, and I've been really looking forward to this particular session with some really inspiring leaders that are doing some amazing things in their respective countries and schools. But before we kind of get into that, I just want to kind of quickly introduce Showbie as well for many of you that might not know what Showbie is. Showbie is a hybrid learning platform. It's kind of supporting over 3 million educators. It's really used to provide more richer, deeper, personalized feedback to students. And Showbie has been working with educators for almost 10 years. And now it also has some pretty powerful partnerships with some really, really useful applications that support pedagogy and teachers, students in the classroom as well. So just moving on specifically to this session, we're going to be kind of discussing all aspects of creativity and innovation. And we're specifically looking at this from a Nordic perspective. We've got representation from Sweden, from Norway, from Finland, from Denmark. So I'm kind of quite happy that we've got a real mix of people here. And rather than myself introducing everybody that's on the panel, and many of you have kind of had the pleasure to meet, and some of you have even worked with and been into schools and seen some amazing things. I'm actually just gonna go around the table, go around the panel, and let people just introduce themselves, your role, your organization, which country you're from, a little bit about the context of your school. So let's start off with Sari.
Hey, hello everyone from Finland. My name is Sari Lantto. I work as a head teacher and a Swedish teacher in a small upper secondary school here in northern Finland, Lapland. We have a really small school here. We only have about 50 students, but the school is a really active school in many ways. We have a large international network. And we have been working one-to-one iPad since 2013, so over 7 years already. And our learning environment is almost 100% digital. So everything from the teacher sharing the material to evaluation and feedback and, well, exams and so on is digital. We still have paper books, but we work in a digital way mainly. My role is everything from taking care of the heating system of the school to being the pedagogical leader and doing the daily work, planning the schedule and so on. So in a small school, we don't really have any extra personnel, extra staff. We don't have any IT personnel either. So everything we do digitally as well, we have to do ourselves. So the system has to be easy to maintain and administrate. This is actually a private school, but not in a way private schools are in Europe. The private school in Finland means that the administration is private. We are not under the municipality administration, but otherwise the school is like any public school, so no fees. And my students don't really even realize that this is a private school. Of course, it's really easy for me to work because we get to make a lot of decisions ourselves, even if we do follow the national curriculum and all the laws and regulations, of course. But I think that's maybe who I am and what our school is like.
Sorry, just a quick question for you. You mentioned digital exams. Is that the case throughout Finland? Are exams digital?
Yes. Well, the matriculation exams, which is the only national exam in Finland, that is digital in every school. The system is digital, has been for a couple of years now. Exams depends on the school, of course, because we work digitally. We try to do everything in this digital workflow. It's natural for us, but otherwise it depends on the school.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you. And Frode.
Hello, my name is Frode Sømme. I work in Bærum Kommune, which is a municipality just 15 minutes south of Oslo. I work as a principal at the Young Skole, which is primary school 1 to 7 with 400 plus students, 33 teachers. we have been an iPad school since 2014 with the iPad one-to-one for everyone, and has had a great experience with that. All the 42 schools in Bærum municipality have iPad one-to-one. So this is the biggest innovation with iPad in Norway when it comes to one municipality. And it's run by the municipality, so they organize everything and set up the iPads and so on. So we don't have to have an ICT person at our school because it's run and organized in the municipality. We have been doing quite a bit of innovation the last 6 years. So we were also awarded as the most innovative school in Norway in 2016. And that was interesting. So we have had a lot of visits from all over Norway. We have had, I think we have had about 100 schools coming to us and visit us. We have been working with Olive Tree in Bolton school also. I've been there, they have been here. We have had good collaboration. And we have some ideas regarding innovation and leadership and how things can be done effectively and how you can make this come true in your own school based on some experiences that we have had here.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Søren. And I have been to your school and had the pleasure of kind of seeing what goes on in the classroom, and really is quite an experience and worthwhile kind of visiting there as well. Søren.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Søren, and I'm a principal at a school in Denmark, Holte Skole, and we have we are situated just north of Copenhagen. So if everyone knows where that is, it will help you. We have around 1,150 kids in our school, and I have around close to 170 employees, pedagogues, teachers, all kinds of things. We've worked with digital learning skills for quite a long time as well. We've been working with iPads since 13 and 14, and we've actually tried in our municipality to roll out sort of a systems change. So we've, just as Frode was telling about, it's all the schools in our municipality that has been working with the same strategy. And that's helped us a lot. We've moved a lot, and I think we have some great solutions to thinking, innovation and creativity using digital tools. So I think we're doing quite well, and we're always trying to push the limits and the borders, and this pandemic that we've been in has maybe in fact helped us a little bit, because it's sort of pushed us to the limit. So
wonderful. I think we'll probably speak a little bit more about the pandemic and the impact of that on all of your kind of schools and approaches. We'll kind of explore that as we go along. Last but not least, Anders, welcome.
Hi, my name is Anders, and I come from Sweden. I work at a school 20 kilometers south of Stockholm. That's called Skapa-skolan. In English, that should be the creative school. And I work there as an ICT head teacher, and I teach science and math. And I've been to a couple of schools that are located in weak socioeconomic areas around Stockholm. So this school as well. So we've been working with iPads since the school opened, and it's a fairly new build school, but the school has been in other buildings before that, temporary buildings, but now we are located in a new fine building since 20 months. So that's great. So I hope I'm gonna learn something from the rest of the panel today, and maybe I can contribute with something. I hope so anyway.
Hope so. Hope so. I'm sure that will be the case. So let's kind of get started and have this started with this conversation. I think for me, one of the things that will be kind of really interesting to understand from the panel is what does kind of creativity and innovation mean within your organizations? I mean, there are two separate things in some ways. You know, they always sometimes get mentioned together, creativity and innovation, but actually they can be looked at as two very separate things. So what does that look like from a school perspective, from a principal perspective, you know, and how do you make it happen, you know, because sometimes it's not like you can just wake up and tomorrow pull out a book and say, today I'm going to do creativity, right? You know, how do you kind of get that as a culture? Because I think as leaders, what you're doing is we're kind of like fostering a specific culture within the school. So it'd be interesting to know like how you kind of, how you look at that as a cultural approach in your schools. Now, I'm going to avoid kind of going around the same circles when I'm asking questions, right? So the same person doesn't get hammered first or each time. But, you know, if anyone's kind of wants to jump in on that, feel free to kind of go ahead. Yes, Søren.
Yeah, I can start. I think for me, creativity is all about providing possibilities, I think. If you're thinking strategically in school leadership today, you have to provide opportunities for people. And when you do that and they feel safe in an environment, I think creativity is a absolutely wonderful tool in thinking and finding new solutions to things. My experience is that both as in our school leadership and our teachers and pedagogues, people are almost always interested in trying new things and being creative. And that's also in our strategies and our structure, but also in the classroom. And often they invite the children in as well in the creative process. And I am making an effort to invite my students, no, not my students, also my students, but my teachers and my pedagogues in as well, to sort of think strategically and think out of the box, as you might say. In my experience, it happens all the time. We of course have some structures that we rely on and use again and again, but we make an effort actually to try out some new things all the time. And this knowing that some of them will fail, as some of them will not be a success, and that's okay too, because we thought it might be a good idea. So let's try a creative solution to this one and see what happens.
Anders, what do you think?
Yeah, I think where I work at Skapa Skolan, we always have in the new beginning of a project, we have a real world engagement question. What can we do for others? How can we help others? And so on. And I think that fosters creativity, because then you have to think outside, like Søren said, outside the box, because you're going to solve problems that's old in a new fashion way. If we haven't solved the problem yet, maybe the students can do that now with technology and digital tools, and also the creativity tools are giving the students a voice. They can reach out far beyond the classroom and not just stay in the classroom and collected by me. Yeah. Others could see their work, and that fosters also creativity, I think, or I hope.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Anders. Sari.
I think that if you as a school want to foster creativity, you have to think of many things. I see that we have to allow creativity by enabling certain systems in teaching and learning, and also we have to think about our pedagogical strategies if they allow creativity, the teacher and student autonomy, and that you can own your learning. We talk about the 4 T's of learner autonomy: task, time, technique, and team. So if you if you get to decide on who you work with, what you work with, how you do it technically, maybe in what time, that increases autonomy, and autonomy is something that enhances creativity, in my opinion, as well. And then we have to see if our learning environment enables or enhances creativity. Are we flexible enough? Is our school building flexible enough? Is our daily curriculum or schedule flexible enough? So I think there are a lot of things that either stop or promote creativity. So it's pedagogy and everything around it. I think the culture is really important. Failure and accepting failure and risk-taking, tolerating uncertainty, things like that.
I really like the 4 T's that you just mentioned there, because that's kind of helping people to plan and think around those areas. And I think scaffolds like that are really quite powerful. I totally agree with you in terms of allowing time and that creating that culture for that to happen, because it's not something that you can just say, everybody do this and suddenly it's going to happen. You know, it needs to be kind of like a cultural approach. That's quite powerful. Thank you, Sari. Frode.
Yeah. When I think about creativity, I think it's all about learning, not activity, but student production. But when it comes to, it's all about learning. And you have at a school, I think every school, you have non-creative teachers, you have creative teachers, and then you have innovating teachers. I think that one important aspect is to also involve students in it's not just the teacher who has to be creative, but the student voice regarding how do you learn? How do you learn best? And we see now kids that use a lot of time in gaming. Yeah. How can you introduce gaming as a way of learning? Now that's important. And let's say that you want to introduce gaming as one creative way of learning, then the teacher has to find not just gaming to game, but you have to find the right games so that they will be learning in it. And then I think that one important aspect is that you share innovation in your professional learning environment at the school, because I think it's very important that the non-creative teachers, which you have at all schools, they need to see, not just to hear about creativity, but to see it in practice and to have this professional learning environment among your employees is extremely important. So that's one aspect that we find very, very important at our school. And then that it's all about learning and student production.
I think that's kind of quite powerful. You mentioned about sharing, so we will come on to that, because I'm quite interested on, you know, I sincerely believe that in every school there's always good things that are happening, but then how do we spread those, and what strategies do we use for sharing and so on. We'll come on to that in a minute. But there is one thing that you mentioned there, Frode, that I saw in Sweden as well, and this thing around gamification and gaming. There was a subject, I think, and I don't know whether, Anders, you can help with this, but there was a subject called esports, right? That was kind of appearing. Is that, Anders, can you just like kind of explain what that is? And I don't know if the others can comment on this. Is this a Nordic thing, or is this just something that's in Sweden? Because many of you know I've been to Sweden like multiple times, but you know, and it's something that I kind of saw as a theme in lots of different places. And then I've read some articles on this as well. Anders,
one of my former students is the world champion in esports.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they gather around in a big arena, and then they exercise esports. and that could be any game, but I think that was Counter-Strike. I think so. Yeah, but a lot of schools are setting up esports events at their schools.
So just explain to us what it is for those people that don't know anything about esports. What is it as a subject?
Any computer game that you can compete against one another. So you set up a bunch of computers, log into the same server, and then you can compete against each other in any game. And last man standing.
Last man. And what are the like kind of learning benefits from that? Like, how is that a curriculum? Is it a subject? Is it like an additional kind of experience? What is how?
Yeah, it's an additional experience. I don't think it's in any curriculum yet, or at least I haven't heard of any curriculum yet on that one. So I think it's a fun part of computering.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and they do that. They borrow the schools on holidays and on weekends and on evenings, and they gather together.
Wonderful.
Søren, you have something to say, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say Søren's got his hand up.
Yeah, it's just another aspect of the esport category. It's not in our curriculum either. Unfortunately, actually, but
unfortunately,
I think there are some very good things in it, because it's all about teamwork. When a team like a really big esport team is winning, it's because they're good at communicating. They are good at they practice. They really home in their skills, and they get better together at playing. And that's some of the skills that actually make sense in our schools as well.
Yes.
We need a lot of time and a lot of researchers to work with the kids and try to learn them the importance of teamwork. Which role do you play in this teamwork, and so forth. And there is actually a built-in motivation in the esports for this particular skills.
Yeah. So it's you practice your skills. Rather than practice science or math or social studies.
And I did kind of like, when I first saw it, I did kind of come back and started to look into esports and so on. And actually there's some kind of like really lucrative prizes. There's big payouts and stuff like that. In fact, it's actually bigger than kind of like the typical sports that we know, boxing and football and so on. It's actually pretty powerful, yeah. And it's quite, those people that win, they kind of can win a lot of money with that as well.
Yeah.
They have it as a work.
Yeah. Okay.
They get paid. Yeah.
Brilliant. So we've got, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Anne Met, who has said that we actually have esport, and she's put a link there as well. I'll try and share that with everybody rather than kind of, it's come through to the panel, but I'm going to try and share that now with everybody that's kind of here with this as well. That's kind of pretty powerful. Sorry, you disappeared for a bit. Is esport something that you're seeing in Finland?
Sorry, my network failed. I don't know. We have thunder here, so maybe that's the reason. Esport. Well, I think there is a university in Finland as well, or maybe it's polytechnical school that is going to launch esporting as a educational alternative. But otherwise, I think it's quite new in Finland. Maybe in larger cities or in southern Finland, they have schools that have esports, but I don't know any schools at the moment, unfortunately.
Okay. It's just kind of an interesting thing. Thanks for that, Frode. You kind of mentioned that there, and I kind of just remembered that. So I thought I'd kind of drop that in. So let's kind of, talk a little bit more about kind of, your experience with kind of technology and innovation. What does learning look like in your school, right? So what is the technology allowing you to do now that you weren't able to do in the past, right? I think you've all been through a journey when probably technology wasn't there and where you are now. So what does that learning look like? I think like we will have people that are kind of tuning into this or might watch this later on. and typically if they've not started this journey, what is it that you as leaders and principals are kind of seeing that where it's actually making a difference? So I'll start off with Søren.
Yeah, first of all, I think our technology today is opportunities. For me, it's opportunities. It's tools that we can use to home in on skills or to communicate and so forth. Showbie is a good example of this. We have been using it in our school for a while now, and we're thrilled about it. It makes it possible for us to give feedback on very many levels, and it's really great, and it's fast as well. And but in general terms, I think digitalization is I would say it's a tool that makes it fun as well. There's built-in motivation for a lot of kids here, and for us in school leadership, it's sort of more of a practical tool. We can make communities for our teachers to interact and collaborate with each other. We can make them share things. We can make them build on each other's things. All the different things they make, the teaching they do, they can share it, they can film it, they can share it, they can see it in real time in a room next door. I think for me, it's just it's sort of a land of opportunity for us, and I think we've only just scratched the surface of how it can actually change our practice in schools. I think that's, for me, it's just sort of been an eye opener, and it's not just letting it free in schools. It's not that at all. We've been working very hard on some non-negotiables in our work with our iPads. We've chosen some programs that we use with the children. We've chosen some programs that we use, some apps we use with the teachers, and we've sort of really been training on getting better with these. And of course, we get inspired, and Showbie is a good example of this. We saw it in some sort of conference somewhere, and we thought this might be interesting. And that curiosity that comes with these tools is always important, I think.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I think curiosity is a really powerful word when it comes to looking at creativity and innovation. Yeah. Okay, Frode, your thoughts? How?
Yeah, I think that with the ICT, the possibilities that we have now, there are so many alternatives that the teachers and the kids can use, which motivates better for learning. We see that the production is so important, how kids produce, how they share things in the classroom is much easier. I think that we have seen also much better feedback practices, and as just so many alternatives like gaming, like coding. You can load down movies from YouTube. You can dub the voice speech, and you can make it into your own. You can make podcast, iMovies, pictures, sound, voice, GarageBand. It's so rich, it's overwhelming compared to what we did when we went to school. So it's just so fantastic to have this as a possibility. Variation, motivation, feedback it gives you just everything.
Anders, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think tech, and in our part of the conversation, it's iPad. It gives a democratic point of view of learning. Now everyone can enjoy learning, everyone can participate in learning, and everyone gets a voice, regardless if it's students or if it's teachers. And it gives the teachers a great opportunity to become a part of the student's life, building relations, getting to know them better, and then you can add some extra on that one. So we had in science, in PhD, they had to make a TikTok movie instead of writing a text. So TikTok, you get 60 seconds and try to explain a concept in 60 seconds. That's not so easy, but you can do it with tech, right? And they can publish it on TikTok and I can watch it, or download it in Showbie, works as well. So it's a democratic way of learning with tech. I think it gives every student and every teacher a voice, and every principal as well. Sorry guys, I forgot to.
No, it's fine. Democratic learning, that's actually quite a powerful terminology.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting. I'm gonna say a few words on that maybe afterwards. Sari, your thoughts?
Well, back in 2013, when we started, or when we made the decisions to start changing education with technology, we had 3 goals. And the first goal was to, well, change upper secondary education that had really not changed a lot during the last, I don't know, 40 years or something. So we wanted our students to start using the same working methods and the same digital tools as they use when they leave school buildings. So we thought that if we use the same methods and tools, our students will see the connection between education and real life in a better way. And the second goal we had was, well, back in 2013, we were talking about 21st century skills, but mainly transferable skills, critical thinking, process working, content creation, analyzing information, and so on, communication and collaboration skills. That was something we wanted to our students to learn, because we thought that if everyone sits in straight rows and listens to teachers who speaks about 45 minutes about a topic, and everyone is using the same learning material and doing the same thing in the same time, that wasn't really teaching our students the skills they need in working life and in further education. So that was one of the main reasons why. And the third reason was that, well, in Lapland, we have about 30% of our students are dyslexic. So we wanted to make upper secondary studies accessible to all, because we didn't want anyone not to be able to begin to have a goal in universities and well, applied science in higher education. We wanted them to be able to reach their dreams, and if they thought that upper secondary studies were too theoretic, they didn't choose that education path. So that was one really important reason as well. And how it has changed, well, it's easier to say what hasn't changed. Everything has changed thanks to technology. Since we are in almost 100% digital learning environment, everything happens digitally. So of course, content creation, everything that has been mentioned about being able to create work with multimodal content, combine text and voice recordings and so on. That is something we see, of course, every day. But it has had a larger impact in everything we do. I think it has changed our way of thinking about education and learning and teaching. We don't have lectures anymore. We have flipped learning. We try to use the lesson time in working actively. And it has also created a kind of like active atmosphere. Everyone is a lot more active than they were before. And of course, this opening our classrooms to the world. We are situated in a small place, in a remote place. It's really important for our students to have those connections with the world around them. And that is what digital tools allow us to do. But it's really difficult to explain because we've been doing this so long. We don't really see how it was before.
Yeah, I think there's there's a few things that you've mentioned there, Sari, that I would like to kind of comment on. So first one was accessibility. I think the way technology has impacted accessibility is we really couldn't have done what we're doing with accessibility without it. I remember many years ago, before the advent of kind of accessibility technology, you would have to purchase really expensive software, very expensive hardware that was like, you'd have to share that between students, and now suddenly, you know, it's on our wrists, it's on our phones, it's on our devices, you know. I think that the whole accessibility piece has become significantly more powerful, to the point where the accessibility features are so good that people that don't need them are actually using them for convenience. And
Exactly.
I think we're beginning to kind of see that as well. The other thing is that something that all of you have said, and I did a webinar, well, it was kind of like a professional development session for a school yesterday. I was doing this in the morning, and it was really interesting. The focus was around creativity with assessments. Okay, so getting teachers to understand that if I'm running an assessment, if I'm designing assessment, how can I put creativity into that? Because, you know, in the past, what people have been doing is, yes, for learning, we've been using various technologies, videos, voice, all of that kind of stuff. But when it comes to assessment, we've been just kind of going back, and it's been like, you know, worksheets, documents, past papers, and so on. So the question was, how can we integrate creativity into assessment that suppose a cognitive science kind of thinking for learning? And that was really quite fascinating. So some of the things that kind of came out of that was the idea that giving students the flexibility to submit their understanding of learning in a variety of different ways. So, you know, students being able to speak and explain things, their ability to submit things in different ways, actually allows teachers to better understand misconceptions and what's actually going on in their minds, rather than trying to figure out from a piece of paper or even a digital screen, what was the student thinking when they were doing this, you know? And that actually, I think, there could be some significant impact in the way in which kind of assessment can work in schools. And I don't know, I mean, do you have like things like that happening at your school? What does assessment look like? How does the technology allow you to kind of get into that metacognition piece into the children's mind, you know, compared to without having that? Any thoughts?
You're asking anyone, sir?
Anyone. I'm opening it up to the floor.
Okay, I can continue with the exam thing. All our exams are digital, as I said, but students are allowed to show learning in a way that they choose to. So they are allowed to make podcasts or books or videos or whatever they choose, or they can write text, of course. But when you said about that student, we understand what students want to say more. We can see inside their heads if they have other ways of expressing learning. I think the same goes with us as teachers. When I give feedback to my students, if I only use my red pen, it's quite aggressive and I only point out the mistakes they make. But if I give them vocal feedback, I usually say this was well done and take a look at this and so on. So they also understand us better. So the communication and the interaction is better with digital tools.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Sari. Anybody else want to comment on that? What that might be like?
Yeah, like Sari said, when the students are being able to choose how they want to present their knowledge or their learning, they get more creative than a piece of paper or just on a screen like a Google Docs, or so they can use their voice, their body language, making movies, making podcasts, and also for us that when we are giving them verbal feedback, we can always start by saying their name, like, "Hi Abdul, great work, but you have to," and then the feedback gets more into their heart, and they know that we are giving them feedback because we care, not because the curriculum says we have to give them feedback.
Yeah.
And that's a Kickstarter for learning.
Frode?
I just think that to get assessment and feedback to first grade kids who cannot read, it's important to have the voice possibility to give feedback. And one thing that I think is also a good strength for example, with Showbie, is that parents get the feedback as
Yeah.
well at the same time as the kids, so they can talk about it at home. And I teach English for the 6th grade. And when they have a presentation, I sit down and I do the assessment right away. So when they sit down, they get the assessment and they can read it, and the parents get it right away. And I think this is just a very good way to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I think after we'll I'm gonna just go to Søren, and then I think we're gonna come back and speak about parental engagement and the wider the connection with parents and what that's been like, and certainly over COVID as well. But Søren, any comments on this whole kind of conversation?
Actually, as a part of our exams in Denmark, when the children or the young people leave the public schools, we have a small part that is a project, and not and where we can combine different subjects, and they can be curious on some sort of problem. And in this part of our exam, they can choose any way to make a product, and they will be assessed for both their product, their way of putting up some problems they want to solve, their way of team working, how are you providing effort into this work with your colleagues, as you might call them, fellow students, and so forth. And that's actually my favorite part of the way that we evaluate learning when our kids leave school, because some of the other exams they have, they are like pop quizzes, and you need to know every capital in the world and stuff like that. And that's, for me, that doesn't make sense anymore. But this one does, because it has some of the values about teamwork, about effort, about endurance as well. Do you give up or do you keep pushing, and sort of, and they actually get graded on their exam paper. They get a grade, but they also get a comment as some lyrics on how they performed in this task.
That's quite powerful. And to be honest with you, I know I'm kind of I have a role at Showbie at the moment, but way before that role was even established, with a variety of different schools. And it didn't matter if I was working in India or if I was doing a project in, Africa, or whether it was Singapore or whatever it was. I think that the concept of digitized verbal feedback is something that every educator, every child, and every parent appreciates, because it's just human connection. And I think that there's some serious value in that. And I think Showbie does that actually very, very well. So look, let's kind of expand the conversation. I'm kind of really conscious of time. We don't have much time left. But with your communities and with your parents, you've started a digital program. For some of you, this has been the norm for a long time. What does that look like from a parental perspective, right? What was the change like for them? And maybe that was a long time ago. And what's it like now? And potentially even during COVID and lockdown and so on, what was those kinds of conversations like with parents and the wider community? Let's start. I'll start off with Anders. Go on, Anders.
Yeah, I don't really know, but I think I know that every parents at my school are happy with the digital tools and the way that we are teaching, because they get a connection with school every day, every minute, every hour, and they know what we are doing in school, because they also have the Showbie platform, but we also have another LMS, so the connection runs between those two big things. So they have always information about the school day, or the semester or the month, so I think they are very happy. And I think it's that they think that many of the parents where I work, they are working with computer as well. So when their children went to school with just paper and pen, they were wondering, okay, why paper and pen? Now they think that, okay, now they are being educated for the future, because my students are now in grade 8. In 10 years, they're going to be on a working market that we don't know how it's going to look like in 10, 15 years. So we have to prepare them for that. Yeah. And I think our parents think that we are doing that.
And Anders, what was it like during kind of lockdown, COVID, and so on? You know, I think your schools might not have been closed as much as the schools that have been closed here in the UK. But, you know, what was that experience like for parents? Did you get feedback around, you know, your approach to learning and so on?
Yeah, we get, because what have we done? How we did without these things? No learning at all and no schools at all. So the parents were happy about the strategic planning of the lockdown education. And first of all, I think that the parents were happy about the way that we are used to digital tools, so we can teach through digital tools. And I don't think every teacher in the world are that familiar with iPad or computers. So that's a must as well, I think.
Thank you. Frode.
Yes, two things that I get feedback from parents during lockdown is that they have gotten much more insight into what the kids actually are producing and doing at school, because they have been sitting together with the kids since they had home office also. And that was one great thing. They got to see more what happened during school day, a regular school day. We started the day with inviting kids on Whereby, which is kind of a light version of Teams.
Yeah.
And then we could communicate with the kids and see them. They could see one another. Sometimes we saw parents also. Another thing that we got feedback from was that it was a much greater respect for teaching as a profession.
Yeah.
Because they could see how much planning the teachers were doing. And we've gotten so much feedback from parents that is so thankful for what you're doing, how we are planning. And I have to admit also that it wasn't that big change for us to go from teaching in the classroom to teach outside the classroom. It was more or less the same, of course, different in one way, but it wasn't that big. It wasn't that difficult because you are in contact with the kids during the day, and they could ask questions, they could chat with the teacher, they could chat with one another, they could ask questions, share answers. It was a good experience, actually.
Yeah, I think there's a number of things that you said there, but those schools that had a strategic vision around technology, where students had access to device, but they also had a platform like Showbie that was kind of embedded before the lockdown. For them, that transition was actually easier than schools that suddenly had to work out, how do we do this? And they don't have a technology strategy and so on. I know here in the UK, there was a big gap between those schools that already had something in place compared to those schools that had nothing in place. And they were literally only using the school website. So they would just upload a load of documents on the school website. And the idea was that the children or the parents at home would download a 40-page PDF document and somehow print and work with their children and so on, which we know it's not really a feasible thing. So I think that was one thing. And now there is this kind of new kind of insights into how can we use technology effectively? Do we need a strategy and so on? And I know the UK government have set up something called the EdTech Demonstrator Program, where schools that are kind of very good with technology have an open door policy. They support other schools and school leaders and help them develop digital strategy and so on. I think the other thing that you mentioned, Frode, there was around a newfound respect for teachers And, you know, that transparency, like parents could certainly see that. I'm struggling with 2 children at home. How do teachers do it with 30 in the classroom, right? And I think I heard lots of comments like that on social media and other places and so on. So absolutely, I think there's some big takeaways there. I'm just going to come to Søren. Søren, your thoughts on this whole parental engagement, COVID lockdown thing?
Actually, yeah, it's two. In my case, it's two different things. I think actually, when we started using iPads in 13, 14, I think we had some skeptical parents amongst the parents, but it quickly turned out that when we started using the iPads as something more than a book with a battery on the back, we actually gained a lot of points on that one. So that went pretty well. According, in relation to our work under the pandemic, we've had 2 lockdowns in Denmark. We got sent home and then we came back and then we got sent home again. And that was actually excellent because we had an opportunity to evaluate all of our efforts and actually talk about back at school on how we did and learned a lot from each other. We have children down to, we use Microsoft Teams in our school, and we have children down to 6 or 7 years old who's been reading in breakout rooms on their own level with 4 or 5 other kids and a teacher, like 30 minutes a day, besides all the other stuff that they were doing. And there was a lot of some frustration in the beginning, but it turned out that the children with very little guidance can actually do that themselves, even though they're very small. So we've been able to sort of have a very steep learning curve in this. And I think we were actually pretty good before the lockdown. But some of the things that we've learned during this lockdown or these lockdowns have been for sure going to be a part of our teaching forward.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential learning and positives that have come out of this kind of, you know, tragedy in many ways, but that's sometimes how we learn. We kind of get put into pressure. That's where we innovate the best. That's where we get creative because we're trying to find new ways of doing things. Sari, what was it like, you know, for your school community, your parents and so on? How has that relationship developed pre-COVID, post-COVID?
Well, back in 2030, I have to say Finnish parents are easy. At least parents in that I have had contact with are easy. They don't normally, I don't get calls saying, why are you doing this? They trust us to do the best choices for their students. So I have met very little resistance, or at least they haven't told me anything negative, mostly only positive. So it was quite easy for us to implement iPads in the beginning. I think our students were more skeptical or were a bit afraid of change than the parents were. The COVID time, well, as everyone else has said, the transition was really easy because the only app we added to our digital learning environment was Zoom. We kept everything else, so we didn't lose really a day. We started a day early with our remote teaching and learning, and it went really, really well. And it actually went so well that even if we have been allowed to be at school since, in the school building since August, we have kept 1 remote day per week. Because our students have been asking for that. That is for us students, for us teachers and students to maintain the skills in remote teaching and learning, and also because we have students who live really far away from the school. It's really good for them not to have to travel every day for an hour in both ways. So we are still continuing, and when it comes to our learning environment, well, Showbie is our only digital learning platform, and we do everything inside it, and the digital exams are done mostly in Socrative or with iPad apps like Pages and so on. So our parents are not connected to Showbie, but they can of course see what their children are doing at home. Sometimes they say that they can hear me speaking for their children in the evenings because of the learning instruction videos that we make. So we do a lot of material ourselves, and of course the parents can see what we are doing. And well, they're happy.
That's fantastic. I think one of the things that I definitely have seen is that like video, like the whole flipped learning approach, but video material made by teachers or explainer videos that have been submitted in Showbie that parents can watch. It's allowed parents to be in a better position to support their children's learning at home. So the age-old conversation of, you know, hey, we didn't do long division or multiplication in this way, we do it a different way, and all of that kind of stuff. It breaks down those kinds of conversations. So there's a higher degree of transparency. I also think that, I think technology's got to a point where to do a screen recording, it's just become so simple to do, yeah? It wasn't that long ago when you needed to buy quite expensive software to be able to do anything like that. And I know that obviously on Showbie as well, that screen recording features come out now with the front-facing camera, right? So you can actually, your face gets recorded as you're explaining and so on. And the fact that students can do that as well means that the type of resources and the type of submissions that students can do can be significantly different. Look, guys, I'm going to kind of just come up with, we've had a great conversation. I'm kind of coming up to time as well. All I'm going to, the last thing that I want to do before we kind of hop off, and I'm going to kind of give you like 30 seconds, 40 seconds each to be able to kind of do this. But if there are leaders and school leaders that are here watching this, or they're going to be replaying this video and watching it again, what top tips, advice would you have if they are kind of starting on this program of one-to-one innovation, creativity, effective use of technology? You know, what kind of words of wisdom and advice would you have for them? So I'm gonna kind of start off with Søren at the top. Tell us what you think.
That's quite a big question.
I know it is. And I'm making it harder because I'm saying you've only got 40 seconds.
Yeah, I can make a TikTok video if you'd like.
Yeah, cool. Love it.
No, actually, I was thinking when you were giving me the question, I was thinking about courage, actually, and big ears. That's actually my advice. Bring in people that you need to work with in your decisions, and have the courage to actually sort of challenge some of the cultural or historical founded decisions that's been made in many of our schools. Our school today looks nothing at all like the one that I spent my time in Denmark. Nothing at all. And I actually make an effort to saying that to the parents. I always say, I love to discuss school with you, but I don't want to hear how your school was, because it's not like ours today. And the courage to actually say that out loud and actually stand on it and say, and I believe that this is a better school. It is a better school. Our children are happy and they are really learning, and they're really motivated, both via technology, but via very many different things. And I actually think that's because of some of the courage that we put in here. We dare to try some new, we dare things, and we dare to be creative and innovative.
Powerful. Thank you. Frode.
Yeah, I think there are 50 reasons and good reasons why not to change anything, because people don't like change. But society has changed, school has changed, and I changed. Personally, I changed. I didn't want iPad into school. Until I went to see it at another school, and I saw and I spoke with kids, how they learn, motivation, sharing, assessment, and I saw all the things that they did, and also the improvement of grades, and that changed me. And I think one of the important things for schools is to go and see at a school that has made a change, a school where this is functioning, where you have creativity, innovation. Go and see it, and of course work with your leadership team, make a vision, and all these. There are, you know, many things. But one of the advices that I will give is go and see, have a look.
Actually, great advice, you know, because you feel it when you walk into a school. You people, you know, you will know that yourselves. Every school has a feeling, and certainly when you speak to students and they can articulate their learning, that's powerful stuff. Sorry.
Well, I think everything has been said that I was planning to say, so I can only agree. The best way to see the change is to visit a school that has made the change already. At least it was like that for our school. We really needed to see how things work in practice. And then, of course, what you have spoken in many of your presentation about the change management, that is my leading star, my guiding star, that you have your what and why, and with what resources and what learning needs to be done and what are the resources and so on. That is something that I always come back to.
Thank you.
The management, the change management part is really, really important and really, really, I can't say the word good. Well, it's good. It's necessary, I would say. Yes.
Necessary, yeah. It's integral to make that happen.
Mm.
Thank you, Sari. Thank you very much. And last but not least, Anders.
Oh, thank you. Like the previous guys have said, visit the school, make a vision, and bring in someone who can actually lead the process in your school, because the school leaders can't do everything. So they need someone from the outside to manage the transformation. Critical eyes.
Thank you very much. Look, guys, I've just gone over time, but I can't thank you enough for, first of all, taking time out from your kind of busy schedules and days to kind of do this and share with everyone as well. It's been fascinating kind of listening to you all. I'm hoping that, you know, sometime in the future, we kind of can get around and meet each other again at events and places like we have done in the past. It will be fantastic to be able to do that again, which I'm sure and hopefully kind of confident that we will be able to in the future. Look, and for the panelists and the people that are watching, you know, absolutely, you'll be able to see from the Learning Redefined website where you signed up that you can kind of communicate where the schools are for the people and get in touch with them. Most of the people are on Twitter, they're on social media. And, you know, if you need to dig further and ask them questions, absolutely feel free to do that. So thank you all. Thank you very much. And I'm going to say have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
The same to you, Abdul. The same to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Søren and Frode and Sari. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.